Monday again. We have been talking about the idea of learning how to slow down as part of a new way to relate to and react to anxiety and panic and stress and fear. And often the question comes up, well, slowing down, is that mindfulness? Do I have to learn how to meditate? And we're going to talk about that today. And the fast answer to that is not necessarily and kind of. So there's really no hard and fast answer to that, but let's talk about it today. This is Recovery Monday, episode number 40. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Just a reminder, we are doing lessons out of this book, Always a Glare, 7% Slower. We're up to chapter 7 today, which is literally called, Is This Mindfulness? Do I have to meditate? So let's get the chat up on the screen, see who's coming in. Not many folks yet. The stream seems to be really slow these days. So as you get in, just let me know that you can hear me. Let me know everything's working. Everything seems to be okay on this end. We'll wait a few minutes for the usual crowd to wander in, and we'll start getting into this. This, I think, is one of the more useful chapters that I wrote in 7% Slower. Hey, Philly. Hey, Philly. What up? Table tennis. Today, by the way, is a bank holiday in Scotland. So Bethany and I somehow decided that there should be table tennis tournaments to celebrate this. For any of you who are in Scotland, feel free to comment about that. I don't know if table tennis is a thing there, but we've decided that it maybe should be celebrated with table tennis, which is ridiculous, but that's just what we do. Anyway, this is one of the, I think, chapters that is most useful because for a lot of people, I'm here laying in the mud. Hello from Scotland. Hello, Scotland, in the Facebook group. Don't know who it is, but happy bank holiday. Evidently, you guys are on a bank holiday today, so go play some table tennis. Anyway, today we're going to try and take some of the mystery and the confusion and the overwhelm out of mindfulness and meditation because a lot of people feel like, oh, I hear it's, this is so important. Mindfulness cures everything. It fixes everything. I'm going to learn to meditate. It's going to knock down my anxiety. And yeah, that's not necessarily wrong, but it's grossly oversimplified. And for anxious people, especially people who are trying to learn to slow down and like allow these thoughts and these feelings and sensations to happen, it's, that could be really overwhelming, a little bit scary, like no way. And it starts to look like, oh, I have to do some sort of special thing to learn how to be mindful, like that mindfulness is a special sort of thing. And it's not. Anyway, let's see here. Hey, Washington State, what up, Julie? I haven't needed you for a while, like a few days. I think this is called recovery. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Like when you don't need me, that's a good thing. I'm always thrilled when that happens. Anyway, let me close this so I can see what's going on. Let me turn off my screen blanking app because otherwise it will blank my screen. Oh, I already turned it off. Look at that. I actually quit it. I'm ahead of the game today. Not bad, right? So anyway, let's get into this. Chapter 7 and 7% Slower is called, Is This Mindfulness? Do I have to meditate? And, the little lizard guy is at the top, as he always is. You can't see that. And the answer is kind of and not necessarily. So here's the deal. Mindfulness is often held up, like I was saying, as a bit of a panacea. Like if I can learn to be mindful, it fixes everything. It makes my life better. I'm happy. My anxiety goes away. I'm calm. I'm serene. I'm elevated. I'm enlightened. And it gets really confusing and overwhelming. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a wrong assessment. There are tremendous benefits to learn to live mindfully, 100%, not disagreeing with that. And I have no personal act to grind with the mindfulness people. I dig the mindfulness people. I'm a big fan. But we have to acknowledge that for anxious people, the idea of somehow learning to become mindful or achieve this magical state of mindfulness can be really overwhelming and confusing. All right. So try and take a little bit of the mystery out of that today. So the deal here is that mindfulness is not really meant to be, it's not the key that's going to unlock everything for you. I mean, it will help, but don't think of it that way. But I do understand that what I wrote specifically, I'll read a couple of passages today. Telling an overachieving business owner or a person gripped by panic disorder that they need to be in the moment seems like a good idea, but it can often fill those people with a combination of disbelief, dread, and frustration. Like that was me. Like that was me. Like I have to do what? Like I have to learn to be in the moment and grounded, and I have to vibrate. And no, that's not it. So let me assure you that to learn to be mindful and to act mindfully and live to mindfully, you do not have to go deep within. You don't have to commune with spirit animals. You don't have to learn how to vibrate. It's not about grounding, like none of that stuff. This has nothing to do with a shift in your worldview, your vibrational level, your spiritual energy. It has nothing to do with that at all. But people really get confused and it seems overwhelming. Like, how am I supposed to learn to do all this when I'm just in a panic most of the time? I'm really anxious all the time. You don't have to do that. So really and truly, mindfulness is just the act. Here, I put it right here. I think I put it up on the screen. Let's throw it up on the screen here. Nope, I did not put that up here, but we're going to say mindfulness is simply the state of being fully engaged with what is happening now rather than reviewing the past or predicting the future. And this is really important. We do not qualify the state of mindfulness. So this is a thing that I will put up on the screen. That is a quote from the book. It's a pull quote that Hillary pulled out, because I think it's a good one too. It is not mandatory to appreciate the here and now, to find any special meaning or beauty in it, or to be grateful for any of it. So this is where things start to get off the rails. Like, people can start to understand, like, oh, I just have to pay attention to what's going on right now. But then somehow all the talk around mindfulness and being present sort of gives you that indication that you have to, it gets sometimes tied and connected to things like gratitude and appreciation and perspective. Like, just being present now, or being paying attention to what's going on in the here and now, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to love it. You might not get deeply engaged with it. You may have no gratitude. You may have no opinion one way or the other. You still may feel like crap if you're still dealing with the anxiety issues, for sure, or if you're super stressed, but you can still learn to be engaged with what's going on right now. So it's really important, because I think, to not qualify your mindfulness. And sometimes that's what really throws people off, because they feel like they're working on living mindfully. I'm slowing down. I'm trying to pay attention, be in the here and now, but I don't feel any sense of calm. I can't feel gratitude. I don't feel that higher energy level or whatever. I don't feel a shift. It doesn't matter. You don't have to. We do not qualify it. And I've literally seen people get in arguments over the fact that you're not doing mindfulness right. But one of the great advocates and teachers of mindfulness in the modern era, John Kabat-Zinn, he talks about this stuff all the time. And he will say all the time, we do not qualify it. Like, we do not qualify it. There's almost no way to do it wrong, except trying desperately to do it right. There is no right way, just paying attention. Okay. So you don't have to attain any specific state. You just have to learn to pay attention. But I also want to talk a little bit about one of the things that makes mindfulness really confusing also, which is the word present. Like, you have to be present. Present is really super amorphous sometimes. Like, what the hell does it mean to be present? But you don't have to achieve a state of presence, which also has connotations that go beyond the practical, I think. Like, presence feels like I have to have some sort of special connection, or I have to, I don't know, like, presence really kind of trips a lot of people up. They read more into it than it has to be. But present, you don't have to be present. You just have to pay attention, right? So to tie it into the idea of learning to go slower, and why 7% slower is really a little bit of a on the DL, on the down low, like, mindfulness manual, is when you slow down, you kind of don't have any choice but to pay attention with what's in front of you. Like, part of the way that we slow down is to actively engage with what is right in front of us right now. So you don't have to achieve a state of presence. You only have to be engaged. You only have to pay attention. So being engaged is a thing you can do. You can pay attention. Those are behaviors that you can do. Being present indicates, like, achieving some sort of state that you may or may not achieve. So if presence works for you, then be present, knock yourself out. There's nothing wrong with that word. I just want to take some of the mystery out of that, for sure, because some people feel like, well, how do I achieve a state of presence? How can I be present? I see it a lot in parents too. Like, I need to be present with my children. Like, well, you just have to be engaged with your children, even when you feel terrible and you think you shouldn't be. So presence sometimes trips people up, but if the word is okay for you, then go for it. It's not a bad word. It's just sometimes has, connotations that make people confused. There's no special state, emotional state, or state of being that we're after here. We're looking at mindfulness as a kind of a happy side effect of slowing down, as almost a behavioral thing, learning to pay attention to what's in front of you right now, even when your brain is demanding that you ruminate over the past or make predictions over the future. Right. So that's okay. It's a thing that has to be practiced. This is not a thing you don't just decide, like, okay, I'm going to be present. Like, you really have to work on that. You really have to work on it. It's like everything else we talk about. This is just not a thing that you can just decide to make a mind shift, or some sort of spiritual shift, or a change in your energy and be more mindful. It just doesn't work that way. People spend their entire lives practicing this, like, literally practicing it on a daily basis. People have dedicated their entire lives to teaching this. John Kabat-Zinn is one of them. Thich Nhat Hanh, he just passed away last year, I believe. A master when it came to this sort of stuff. He dedicated his entire life pretty much to try to teach these concepts, and he practiced them himself his entire life. So humans are not inherently good at this. So it's okay if you suck at it. It's okay. Like this takes time. It takes practice. It's okay. And you really, I don't know anybody that ever would say like, "Oh, I've achieved a perfect state of mindful living." Like, I don't believe that that's possible. We can from time to time, but it's not our default state. So we have to work on it, right? So let's talk about meditation. Let's move to that, right? So, because people will say, well, do I have to meditate? As part of learning this new reaction to anxiety, if I'm learning to go slower, does that mean I have to meditate? Well, sure. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to, but I suggest it. But here's why I suggest it, not because meditation achieves a state of being, like we're not trying to achieve a particular state. So it's just like mindfulness. It's only a way to practice paying attention. So what I want you to think about in terms of meditation and how you can use it in this context, that would be I can use it to practice paying attention, which is part of learning to be mindful. So sometimes I like to tie them together by saying mindfulness and meditation, are they related? Yeah, they're definitely related because on a practical sense, when we talk about it this way, and the way I've used them in my own life is mindfulness is a way to practice paying attention. And it is practice because your mind will wander, you'll have thoughts, you'll have feelings, you'll start thinking about old memories. You bring your attention back to your breath or whatever you're focused on at that moment. I'm not talking about chanting meditation. I'm not talking about transcendental meditation. I'm talking about point focus meditation. Usually it's focusing on your breathing, but it could be anything. I have meditations up on the Insight Timer app. They are free. You don't have to pay. That use breath. They use visual focus. They use sensory focus. A couple of really basic, 10 and 5 and 10 minute meditations. But meditation is only a way to practice paying attention. And then we do that and we get better at practicing paying attention in a bit of a stationary way or dedicated way. I'm going to sit for my 3 minutes, my 5 minutes, my 10 minutes, or like my 15 minutes, whatever. I do about 10 minutes a day. And then when you get good at that, you start to put your focus in motion. So if meditation is a way to practice paying attention to something, then mindfulness is just meditation in motion, right? So you're just expanding the scope of that attention. Like, well, I'm going to pay attention to making my sandwich. I'm going to pay attention to the conversation I'm having with Donna right now, whatever it is. Whereas you can practice it in a quiet, controlled way, and then you begin to take that into the world by putting it into motion. So that's all this really is. Is it mindfulness? Yeah, slowing down is kind of mindfulness. It's a form of getting there, no doubt. Do I have to meditate? Maybe. You don't have to, but the way I look at it is a good way to practice paying attention. And we can use that because when your anxiety is screaming at you to pay attention to it or pay attention to the sensations or this thought that it wants you to believe is so super dangerous and scary, well, I can hear that thought, but I can still pay attention to something else while I hear it. Right. So there's a bunch of different ways to practice that. There's no wrong way to do it, to be honest with you. So that's the beauty of this. There's no magic, there's no mystery. It doesn't have to be spiritual, it doesn't have to be particularly emotional. It's not trying to achieve a particular state. These are practical skills that we can use to help us as part of this overall improvement that we're looking for. Right. So again, just trying to take just trying to take the mystery out of some of this. So what else did I write in this chapter here? When we talk about doing some of the analogies that I wrote in this book, I'm not going to lie, I forgot that I wrote them and they're pretty good. They make me laugh. But what I did write here is that we have to acknowledge when you do use meditation as a focus and pay an attention practice tool, that you will come face to face. And I've talked about this in other areas too. You will come face to face with the sensations that you hate and the thoughts that you hate, but that's okay. It's practice in hearing them and feeling them, yet bringing my attention back to my breath or the stone that I have in my hand or the point on the wall or the feeling of your toes as you walk. There's some people doing walking meditations. There's a zillion different ways to do that, right? But yeah, you're going to come in contact with that. So a lot of people will say, well, there's no way I can't possibly do that because I can't turn my brain off long enough to meditate. But you're not supposed to turn your brain off. Like, I just want to clarify that too while I have your attention. Meditation has nothing to do with turning off your brain and not thinking at all. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. So people seem to feel like, well, I have to create a quiet mind. Well, your mind can be quiet even though there are thoughts in it, right? So what we're really looking for is finding a way to maintain that focus or keep coming back to that focus point so that your mind isn't going to be dead quiet. You're still going to have thoughts and you're still going to experience sensations, but you can experience them in a less frantic way, right? So we talked about that earlier in 7% Slower. We're really looking at getting out of that frantic state. because speed just builds that frenzy. So we're just trying to eliminate some of the frantic nature of it. You'll still feel it. You'll still hear the thoughts. They will still disturb you, but you can take some of the frenetic pace out of that, and that frantic need to be safe from it sort of goes away. But what I did write is meditation is like the gym for your attention and focus muscles. For our purposes, learning basic meditation and practicing it daily just means learning to let the extraneous stuff come and go, not stopping it while you bring your attention to where you want it to be. Sounds pretty basic, right? It is. That doesn't make it easy. Doesn't make it easy at all. It takes practice. It's not a thing that you're just going to decide, oh, I'm going to be a meditation master tomorrow. But but that's what we use it for our purposes, right? So just circling back so that everybody stays on track here with today's little thing is mindfulness. Is this mindfulness? Yeah, it's mindfulness. But mindfulness is just learning to pay attention and engage with what's going on right now. And do I have to meditate? Well, it's a good way to practice how to stay focused and pay attention. That's all that is. So one of the things that I talked about as we sort of end the lecture that ends chapter 7 is I talked about the concept of accidental emergency multitasking. That's funny because I was reading the chapter last night when I was getting ready to do this talk, and I don't know, I forgot that I wrote about accidental emergency multitasking. So slowing down means putting the brakes on your accidental emergency multitasking. So when we can learn to pay attention to what's going on in front of us, and we can practice paying attention and focusing, and that becomes part of this slower reaction, this more measured, less frantic reaction to anxiety, fear, and stress, then we can put the brakes on that. So emergency multitask. So this is what I wrote. Accidental emergency multitasking means you enter into a very high anxiety or stress state and try to do everything at the same time. You bounce from thought to thought and fear to fear in rapid sequence. You swing back and forth from thinking and inward focus to trying to rapidly do things with an outward focus and back again. You try to say every word you want to say immediately upon thinking them. You're fixating on the past and the future, fumbling with your keys, the pen in your hand, the paper you're trying to write, the book you're trying to read, and the conversation you're trying to listen to. Accidental emergency multitasking, when you're in that anxious state, means I'm trying to do everything at the same time because I'm in a frantic, afraid state, and I'm going to speed up. I'm going to rush around because somehow or other, it seems like I must get out of this situation. So we want to use the idea that no, I can pay attention to what's going on now. I can slow down and I could pay attention to one thing at a time. I can just pick up this pen and hold it in my hand. Then I can do the bolt, and then I can write the word, and then I can fold the paper, whatever it happens to be. So learning to do that, paying attention to the here and now, tiny moment by tiny moment, is mindfulness. It's not a special state. It's just an action that you take, and it can help you avoid this accidental emergency multitasking state where you are in a frantic flurry of thinking, speaking, and trying to do everything all at one time in an effort to escape. So I think it's an important concept, to be honest with you. And I remember writing about it, and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. So I just wanted to bring it up. Accidental emergency multitasking. Ring a bell? Sound familiar for any of you guys? So then I kind of wrapped it up just by saying, when you slow down by 7%, you have no choice but to become aware of the current moment and engage in whatever is happening in that moment. So when you slow down, you do not have a choice. You will engage with what's going on in front of you. Like, we're slowing you down so you cannot go into that multitasking mode, and you'll have no choice. So like, in a way, it's the benefits of mindfulness and meditation without all of that pesky mindfulness and meditation. So the idea that you can learn to slow down, and yes, sort of by association, that becomes a mindfulness practice, which you can augment by practicing meditation for focus skills. There you go. You're tying it in. You are getting mindfulness and meditation without specifically saying, I'm going to learn to be mindful to fix my anxiety. No, I'm just going to slow down. And then by kind of default, you flow into that state of mindfulness as you go. Can't help it. You almost can't help it. That's why I say that 7% slower is a sneaky mindfulness manual. It actually teaches you to be more mindful without setting out to have been a mindfulness manual. So that is chapter 7 of this particular book. They're all short. They're just short, easy, kind of light reads. Hopefully that has helped. Let's go through some of the comments like we usually do. Let me go back to the chat here. Oh, you know what I should have done? Hang on one second. We're going to do this again. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm just kidding. Um, yeah, I had to turn the fan back on here. If I close the door, it gets hot in here. So let's pop on through here. See what everybody is up to. Turning in from quarantine. Oh no, Aurora. Hope you're feeling better. That is a huge drag. Let's see. Because of your books, I have left my house and went back to work. Yay, forget my books. You did that. Great job, Tabitha. That's tremendous work. Congratulations. That's really great. Keep going. But you did that. My books did not do that. All they did was give you a path and you followed it. So great job. Here we go. This is a pretty standard definition of mindfulness. Nothing more than being present, aware, and accepting. It's actually kind of boring. The accepting part in that is the biggest part. And I'm sorry I can't see your name because of Restream clearly in the Facebook group. But yeah, that is the accepting part is the most important part of that definition. That's when I say we do not qualify our mindfulness. Like I don't have to be in a particular state. What is up, UK? Hey, Carol. Let's see here. Aurora says being in the present moment doesn't automatically calm you down. Yes, that is 100% correct. This is one of the reasons why I think people have a hard time with the idea of mindfulness, being present. I achieve a state of presence because they equate that to like, if I achieve that state, then I calm down right away. I mean, will you? Yeah, possibly. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but you cannot go into this thinking mindfulness is a shield and it will immediately calm me down and make me not afraid. It doesn't really work that way. It's just allowing whatever's happening to happen at the same time that you're trying to engage outside of your own thoughts and sensations, right? So in a way, sometimes people get tripped up too. I should address this because they think paying attention is I'm going to pay attention inside. So this can backfire, right? We should probably talk about that for a second. It's worth mentioning because paying attention means paying attention to what's going on around you in the here and now. It doesn't mean focusing in. And some people will literally give you this advice, like examine your thoughts, examine your sensations. And I understand the logic behind some of that, but I would strongly suggest that you do your best to just allow them instead of examine them. So I don't mean pay attention to every thought you're having and every catastrophe. I'm saying pay attention to the things that are going on around you, not inside you, which is the problem. You are under the mistaken belief that the things that are happening inside you have to be the most important thing in the universe. So you must pay attention to them only. And really, we're working on paying attention outside of our own skin to the world around us while those things are happening, while you're also having those internal experiences. Right. So it's really important to throw that out there. What up, Ellie? Ellie is here and present. I see what you did there. Hey, Olivia, what's going on? So Natalie says, I'm having a hard time doing mindfulness. It's hard for me to live in the moment. I try to pay attention to the present moment. My mind wanders so much. They go travel in the past or the future. Okay. But that's okay. That's so, hey, Serena, how's it going? Good to see you. That's okay, Nath. Like everybody struggles with that. So like and I've been doing this for years and years and years. I don't hold myself up as some sort of Zen master here, or even an expert on mindfulness or meditation. But I can tell you that if I sit down to do my 10 minutes, some days I do great. Some days I can stay completely focused on my breath and it's a great experience. Some days of the 10 minutes, man, 9 minutes, I am all over the place. Like I am everywhere. I'm thinking about what I'm having for dinner. Nah, I'm never really thinking about that in all honesty. I'm thinking about old song lyrics. I'm thinking about projects I'm working on. Like, so it is super normal to have that happen. The win is in the practice. The win is in the practice, right? So if you achieve a state of focus and being sort of focused on the here and now, great. That's good. That's great. But it's really the practice that we care about. So it's okay that your mind wanders. It's going to wander. Like our brains are thought making machines. We can't stop that. We just have to learn to surf through it in a little bit of a different way. That's okay. Like I said, I can be all over the place. I can be all over the place. I'm just used to it now. Like it doesn't get me down. I used to get frustrated by it. Like, oh, I suck at this. It's like, it's all right. If I have to come back to my breath 100 times in 10 minutes, then, oh, well, so be it. That's the way that today is going to have to be. That's okay. See, this is good. Donna says, getting present helps me see right now in this moment, there is nothing wrong with me. I'm sitting here, a roof, nothing is wrong except the thoughts. And I've seen people explain that really, if you take, what's the best way for me I'm trying to choose my words carefully. If you choose the typical anxiety situation that we're always addressing here, right? So you fear some sort of outcome because of the way you feel, or your thoughts are telling you that something bad is going to happen, or you're ruminating on something that happened in the past. You're dealing in pretty big chunks of time. And by big, I mean anything from like 2 minutes in the future, like I might have a heart attack and have or a psychotic break in 2 minutes or 60 seconds, or you're dealing with much longer time frames. I'm having obsessive thoughts about dying alone and not loving my partner, or something bad that's going to happen to me down the road, or I'm thinking about something that happened to me 6 months ago at work and I can't stop ruminating on that. But if we start to take time and we slice it into tinier and tinier and tinier chunks, and this is a little esoteric, but I like it. Um, in the tiniest sliver of time, each second, each half a second, each nanosecond, you're okay. It doesn't matter what you're thinking about in 2 minutes or 2 years or 2 weeks or from 2 years ago. In this particular tiny slice of time, you are okay. And that's what Donna is sort of illustrating here. And it's sort of a key component of the idea of being mindful and being in each individual moment. And then we just string those moments together. But again, that's easier said than done. People spend their whole lives trying to learn to live that way. Is not an easy thing. It's not an intuitive thing for human beings to do. So let's pop out here. Good job, George. George is out walking. Love it. I've been practicing dropping the anchor from ACT. I'll put this up because I know people are going to ask. Thanks, Aurora, for the comment. ACT is acceptance and commitment therapy. We talked about it a little bit, I think, last week or the week before. ACT is great. Like, I'm a huge ACT fan. The more I learn about acceptance and commitment therapy, the more I'm 100% certain it will be one of the modalities that I use on a regular basis. I'm also a big fan of metacognitive therapy, but that's where that comes from. Dropping the anchor is a metaphor. ACT is full of metaphors like that. In fact, it's funny. I have a friend of mine in Florida she's now practicing, and she sent me, somebody actually compiled the list of all the ACT metaphors. I'll start to share them. There's a ton of them. Dropping the anchor is one of them. So that's where that comes from. Okay, this is cool. The touch focus. Sorry, I can't see your name. I love touch focus meditation. I struggle with breath work if I'm anxious, but the touch focus centers my attention. That's great. That's why I did that, and I recorded. It's on the Insight Timer app. I'll put the link. If somebody, I don't know, Bethany, if you're still here, if you want to put the Insight Timer link, if you can do that, that would be great. I did record a touch focus meditation because I know a lot of people do not want to use breath, and that's totally fine. Remember, there's no magic in your breath. Your breath is not magic. So I hate those words: breath work, grounding breath, deep cleansing breath, connecting breath, like inhale positivity and exhale negativity. No, your breath is not magic, and it doesn't work that way. Like, maybe down the road, you can start to delve into those things. And if those feel good to you, that's great. But right now, there's no magic in your breath. It's just a place that's always with you. But if you don't like focusing on your breath, you can focus on something visually. Thanks, B. Bethany just put the link up there where you'll find those meditations. But if you can just get to that point where you can focus on something, then that's all that matters. Touch, focus. Some people, like I said, walk. There's a million ways to do this. So it's all good. Somebody said, I just saw something about calming your thoughts. We'll get to that in a second. Oh, this is great. And a Twitch comment. Always got to call out the Twitch people. Thanks, Twitch. Deciding what meditation is before you do it is self-defeating. It completely is self-defeating. Like, it's nothing more than like, I'm just going to take some time and just be with my thoughts and my body and my sensations and everything. And I'm just going to choose where I put my attention. That's all it is. But you're 100% right. When you have expectations, meditation will, somebody said it, and I'm going to get that, but I'm going to get to it. Somebody said, I have a hard time calming my thoughts or slowing my thoughts. You don't have to. Like, don't go into it thinking I'm going to sit down and slow down my thoughts, or I'm going to stop my thoughts now. No, you're not. They're going to come no matter what. You're practicing a new way to relate to them. Oh, hey, scary thought about taking a kitchen knife and killing my whole family. I hear you, but I'm breathing right now, so I'll get back to you later, or not. That's really what we're learning. We're practicing that in meditation. All right. So, hey, Jenny from Australia, 4:30 a.m. What are you doing up, man? Crazy. Let's pop this in. This looks like this is a common thing. I feel like I do meditation. What I don't understand is sometimes I feel like I fell asleep, so I don't get the benefits of meditation. That happens. So I know that that's okay. There's no crime in this. I've fallen asleep. I have actually nodded off during meditation. It happens. It's not ideal. Meditation teachers will usually say, don't meditate laying down because of that. Like, because of that, it's easier to fall asleep and nod off that way. Okay. I mean, that's fine. If it happens, it happens. Does it mean you didn't get the benefit? All right. So maybe you didn't get to practice, but if you nodded off, it meant you needed some sleep. So there's no right or wrong there. I have fallen asleep while meditating. It's happened to me and it will happen to me again. It's okay. Totally okay. So don't sweat it. If that happens, that happens. So all you lost was an opportunity to practice a little bit. But you know what? If you have the time, you wake up, do it again for 2 or 3 minutes. That's okay. But the beauty of this also is short little chunks, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You could sprinkle them throughout the day. It's great. I think it's great. You don't need 2 hours to meditate. It's not like going to the gym. Um, let's see here. I like the colors in my eyelids while I belly breathe. Okay. See, everybody has a different way to do it. Donna put up that she likes to get in touch with the feeling of her toes, like intent focus, paying attention on purpose. Um, so you can see there's just so many different ways to do this. It's really great. Oh, this is a good comment. Let me throw it up because it's a great John Kabat-Zinn quote. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. 100% correct. We're not trying to stop our thoughts, squash the fear, quiet our minds, stop the anxiety. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to learn to surf. We're practicing that. So this is really good. Let's see. This is good. Let's see. GB says that I'm listening to this as I'm working, which is a first for me. Working slower is also better. Imagine that. Like when you don't run around frantically, you get more out of your days. I will tell you, this is not doesn't have anything to do with meditation or mindfulness, but the reason why I wrote this book about learning to slow down is I will tell you that it has been a really changing thing for my entire life. So when I get, this is what I do. I just pile too many things on my plate. I'm going to do that forever until I die. I know I will. That's okay. But I can catch that. And I think, and I know that as crazy as it sounds, if I can sit down and start my day with 10 minutes of focus training and meditation, and I can like say, okay, well, today I'm just going to do my best to slow down. I'm going to try and slow down. I'm going to blow it. I'm going to wind up rushing around. That's going to happen. But if I can catch it and slow down, as crazy as it sounds, I will accomplish more and feel more productive and more accomplished and satisfied at the end of a day where I have just moved slowly through my tasks, as opposed to the way I used to do it, which was like a speed demon, just brute forcing my way through a million different tasks with 72 windows open. Like, it didn't work out well at all. I mean, shit got done, but there wasn't a healthy way for me to get it done. This way, I literally get more done and the quality of my work is better when I go slower. It's real paradox. I wrote about that later on in the book. We'll talk about it in one of the later chapters. The paradox of the fact that I actually do more when I go slower. Because my theory there is that I think I'm a little bit more focused on the actual activity as opposed to all the extraneous sort of nervous energy and misdirected attention. You're thinking about 62 things at one time. We'll also talk about the fact that some people don't want to go slower because they think that, oh, I'm a multitasker, man. I'm always in high gear. It's what I do. That makes them feel good about themselves. I was that person. We'll talk about that in another chapter down the road on one Monday, but that's one of the things that happens too. Like you have to start to give up some of that. Oh, I have to be the fast guy. Maybe you can make that choice, but try being the slow guy, slow person. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Don, it's okay. Sorry to talk so much about this. You're not talking enough. I get it. This has been really impactful for you. I appreciate what you're adding. So don't sweat it, man. Don't sweat it. Let's see here. Oh, this is great. Okay. Let's pop it up here. Sorry, can't see your name. Started my exposure therapy, walks around my block every night. It goes well so far, but I want to walk further than that without fear. So it's great that you started that. Like huge fist bump. Boom. Good job doing that. Love it. It's not about doing it without fear. Like we do this work, we do it with the fear. The fear is the whole point. I can walk around my block while I'm afraid and nothing actually happens to me because I'm afraid. So that's the point. The fear teaches you that like, well, I'm afraid, but in this case, fear isn't danger. For whatever reason, I'm afraid, whatever that happens to be, but the fear doesn't equal actual danger. There's no actual consequence to that, regardless of where that might come from, the angle it comes from. And I learned that I can walk around the block while afraid and nothing bad happens anyway. And that's first you learn to be better at being afraid, and then the fear will begin to fade. So it's really important. It's great that you're doing that work. Just don't get trapped in that expectation. Like I have to find a way to not be afraid so I could walk further. No. Walk further while you're afraid. And then after a while, you will stop being afraid. I know that sucks, but that's just sort of the way it is. I will pop this up for anybody that wants to go get it. That's the URL to find the meditations and insights. They're totally free. There's nothing to pay for. I don't make any, that's not true. I actually do make money on that. I think last month Insight Timer sent me $6 because, and anybody that publishes on Insight Timer like shares in the pool, I guess. I don't know. So I earned $6 from Insight Timer last month. Big money. Um, so anyway, so Australia's here. Excellent. Love it. I'm at work. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, love it. I'm at work typing. I feel the panic is rising in my head. It's racing, but I worked my way through it and I am okay. Christina, that's so great. Like, love it. That's exactly the way you're supposed to do it. Super unpleasant experience, disruptive, annoying, all of those things, frightening. You might be a little shaky for a while. You might feel a little bit vulnerable, a little weak for a while. That's okay. You did it. Nothing bad happened. That's awesome. Love it. Thank you for sharing. Let's see here. So it's only 8:30 p.m. in South Africa. We are global, guys. I love it. Is it common to not know? Oh yeah, yeah. Let me throw this up. It's a good question about the breathing. Is it common to not know how to do the breathing meditation, or you think you're doing it the wrong way? Yeah, especially for people who get fixated on their breath. Like a lot of anxious people have breath centric anxiety. It feels like I can't breathe. I can't get a deep enough breath. I'm focused on my breathing all the damn time. That can breath focused meditation can be challenging. So what I would suggest you do is try some other focus point. Pick a point on the wall, a picture on the wall. Some people do use music. That's okay. You can try guided meditations to start. Although I think guided meditation, sooner or later, you got to leave that behind and meditate in silence. But some people just like a droning sound, or you can hold something in your hand. The one of the ones I did an Insight Timer was I did one on visual focus and I did one on holding anything, like pick something. Yeah. So I can grab one of these coins, right? And I can just, if I wanted to, I could spend 10 minutes just bringing my focus back to this coin in my hand and what it feels like, the ridges, the edge, the texture, the temperature. I can do that. So you can use touch or visual also. It's okay. Yeah, many people feel like they can't do the breathing. It's okay. Totally okay. This is pretty big deal. Again, sorry, I can't see your name. I feel like meditation works well for me, but I don't stay consistent with it. This is definitely one of those skills that you sort of have to practice with. Now, here's what I always say about meditation. We use it as a tool. It's a navigation tool. So like Christina was saying that she panicked at work, but she let it happen and she worked her way through it. You don't have to launch into meditation when you panic. No problem, James, anytime. You don't have to launch into meditation when you panic. A lot of people make that mistake too. Like, oh, I got to go sit down and meditate away the panic. That's not true. But the skill that you learn in meditation of paying attention to something and focusing where you want, not where your fear tells you to focus, is a navigation tool that helps me get through it. That's what helps somebody like Christina get through her panic attack at work. So it does help to practice it on a regular basis. If you only do it because you think I should meditate, I'm having an anxious day, so let me meditate to calm down, and you only do it then, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, but you're missing benefits that way. I look at meditation as a skill that musicians practice their scales, they practice chords. This is what you do so that when you're up on the stage, you can play the music. You practice it before you need it. Sports teams practice, the military runs drills, actors rehearse. Like meditation practice consistently every day, if you can do it, or at least consistently, and not just when you think you need it to calm down. There's benefits to that because then you can use that skill when you need it to navigate, right? To navigate. Let's see. No, 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 no. I'm going to keep going. I use the Calm app. Cool. Calm app is cool too. I used to use Calm all the time. They're all good. Insight Timer, Headspace, Calm. They're all great. I have no dog in that fight really. So if you like the Calm app, totally cool. If you like Insight Timer, if you like Headspace, go for it. Whatever works. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure about the chicken nugget reference, but I'm cool. I'm here for it. It's all good. um, let's see here. With panic, I shift focus away from that. Is that correct or escape? No, that's kind of correct. Like this is a good question. Thank you, Don. I appreciate you asking. It's not about if it's right or wrong. It's really the intent, and it's really subtle and it's really nuanced. And from episode to episode, it might change for you to a little bit, like from occurrence to occurrence, it might change, but it's intent. If I am doing this to drown it out and get away and run away from it, well, that intent kind of backfires on you. But if your intent is, I can focus on my walk, I can focus on my coffee, I can focus on my conversation, I can focus on my grandson, whatever at the time, while I experience this panic, you're good to go. You're good to go. Totally good to go. So that's a good question. A lot of people get confused by that. So thanks, Donna. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I don't want to keep going too far into this, but what guides can I use? I don't like when I hear my heart rate. It makes me think bad thoughts. Correct. You would want to feel your heartbeat and you would want to think the thoughts, right? So you can practice that. Again, intent matters. So that's that whole like, well, give me another way to meditate because if I sit quietly, I'll feel my heartbeat. Yeah, at some point you have to learn to feel your heartbeat. Like running from that is part of what perpetuates this, right? It's really important. What do I think about using a Fitbit with health anxiety? I think it's a terrible idea. If you are checking your heart, now look, I'm wearing a Whoop strap, right? And I've had a Garmin watch, I've Apple watches. There is no way in the universe I could have ever worn an Apple watch. It didn't exist when I was really struggling. I hate to say that, but it was true. I could have never worn a Whoop, a Garmin, an Apple watch at my worst. Never. I could have never done it. It would have made things so much worse for me. If you are wearing your Fitbit so that you can keep track of your heartbeat, like I need to know what my heartbeat is. I have to check it. Like, oh, I'm not feeling so good. What's my heartbeat? Don't throw it away. You don't throw it, lock it away. Give it to your husband, give it to your friend. Do not let me wear the Fitbit until I'm better. I think it's a terrible, terrible idea. If that's what you're doing with it. There are some anxious people that wear a Fitbit or an Apple Watch and they never look at their heartbeat. They don't care. They're using it to track their steps or get text messages. Totally fine. But if you immediately go to that Fitbit to just check, let me just see what my heart rate is just in case, you got to take that thing off. It's not helping you at all, at all. Hopefully that helps, Marnie. Let's see. No. I've had to face a lot of fears in the past. It's just a big comment. Let me see. 2-hour drive and I will be away from home for about a week. I'm a little afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hashtag do it anyway. That's a Josh Fletcher thing, right? Go for it. Good luck on that trip, man. Whoever you happen to be. I'm sorry I can't see your name. Why didn't I need any of this mindfulness stuff for the first 20? Well, it's a question you could ask for sure. Why didn't I need any of this? Well, we can make the argument that like, ain't nobody more recovered than me from an anxiety disorder. And I think this stuff is really valuable in my life. I wish I had looked into these things when I was 18 years old, when I was 15 years old, when I was 22 years old. I wish that I had really invested time to learn these skills and use them. So I don't know if it's about like, well, why didn't we need this? Because then you're looking at it as like, well, now I need it as a cure or a fix. Like these are just good life habits in general. So I get the question, but think about it beyond just anxiety. Let's see here. Don't use Fitbit. You're correct. I think I have it. I'm afraid I'm going to slip out of my, okay. This was me. I'm going to put this up on the screen. I'm afraid I'm going to slip out of my body, have an out of body experience and not get back in. So this is one of those things that I think why I talk about the practical part of meditation. And we got to wrap it up in a few minutes here, but the practical part of meditation, super important because people get this sort of like impression about what meditation is. So there's two things here. Either number one, you have an idea that meditation is somehow changing your state, your spiritual state, or that it's possible to somehow meditate yourself into an out-of-body experience. I'm not going to tell you that there are not people that teach that you should do that. However, that's not what meditation really is. It doesn't have to be that at all. It's just learning to pay attention. The second half of that fear that you're describing is if I let go and just pay attention to my breath or a rock that I hold in my hand, then I'm going to slip out of my body because what I'm doing when I'm not meditating is I'm actively holding myself in my body all the time, which is wrong. You're literally not holding yourself in your body ever. So the only way to go past that, Linda, unfortunately, is you're going to have to start to let go. Now, you might only be able to do that for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Start as small as you want, but it's that letting go thing to see that, well, I don't slip out of my body, but I'm going to have to let that happen because you think it will for 30 seconds and then for 40 seconds and for 60 seconds. So there's that. Let's see here. Good question. I think we're good here. Mornings and evenings are horrible for me. That's pretty normal. Heart flutters and adrenaline. So I try to meditate through that. So this is one of those things, and I'll just take a couple more and then we got to go. But this is one of those things where I try to meditate through that. So what I would say, Penelope, in this situation is when you're feeling anxious or you're panicking or you're experiencing those heart flutters and the dread, that's not a time that you want to run and sit and say, oh, I got to meditate now. I better meditate now to make this go away. That's kind of an unrealistic expectation. That's not being fair to yourself. So you can, again, you can use the skills that you learn in meditation to navigate through that. But I would advise against running for, I got to meditate now so that I can make this go away. I got to calm down with my meditation. It doesn't really happen. That's not fair. Meditation is like bullets off of Superman when you're feeling that way. Like, and people think that somehow you can go to the cushion, sit down, meditate, and make it all go away and achieve a state of calmness. But it is literally like bullets bouncing off of Superman when you're at a certain state. You cannot meditate it away. That's not fair. Not fair to do that. I'll just take this one real quick. Useless information. One of the biggest reasons we choose to homeschool. Practice slowing down really does help. Excellent. All right, I'm going to answer this one because Sonia, I see you've asked a couple of times. When you feel dizzy, are you actually, or is your mind creating unreal symptoms? And I'll end it with this. I very rarely address specific symptoms, but we have all heard statements like, "Oh my God, I got the news about Billy and the room was spinning." We've all heard that. We literally have phrases in our language, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, that talk about that. When you get overwhelmed with bad news, a big emotion, you're excited. We use people like, "Oh my God, I had to sit down. They told me I won the lottery. I had to sit down." Like, we literally describe that because that is a normal part of all human experience. One of the body reactions to big emotions like intense fear, anxiety, or dread is the feeling of being, Claire Weeks called it giddiness, which I guess is a bit of an old term, but that feeling of disequilibrium, being a little bit off balance, that is normal. That is just part of what bodies do when afraid. So, are you imagining it? No, you're not imagining it at all. But just be careful about the way you evaluate that. I'm dizzy. What I would say is, if the room is literally spinning and you cannot get off the floor, then you are dizzy. If it just feels like you're going to fall down, well, you're anxious and your body is doing anxious things, right? That's, but nobody would question with us when we use those phrases. Like, I won the lottery. I just found out I won $32 million dollars, and oh my God, I had to sit down. Like, the room was spinning. Like, you would get that. Nobody would question that. We understand, like, oh yeah, that's what happens when we experience big emotions and things like fear and dread. So that's what's going on with that. Just be careful about calling it debilitating. Um, it's not necessarily. I'm not saying you're not dizzy because I can't specifically know in your situation, but just be careful about what you call it and how you interpret it. But it's super normal. It doesn't mean you're broken, right? So that's it, guys. I appreciate you coming by today. We are like at the 47-minute mark, so I got to end it. If you are following along, we'll be back next week. What are we going to talk about next week? Let's look. I was trying to look. Chapter 8 is, acknowledging. Okay, so chapter 8 is called Learning to Go 7% Slower, Acknowledging. So there's the acknowledgement and then there's the action. So that's next week. Uh, Out of this book, we will be back at the same time. If you do not have this book, you can get it at 7%. Here, I'll put it up on the screen. You can get it at 7%slower.com. All of the ways to get it are there. Feel free to check it out. All my other books are at theanxioustruth.com if you want to check those out too. Hopefully they are helpful. They're actually helping a lot of people. I'm proud of that. And I'll be back next week, same time, same place. This will stay on YouTube. It is the best way to watch them, I think. Like, subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell or whatever. All of these videos, Recovery Monday, are all in the same playlist on YouTube. But this will also stay on my main Facebook page and in the Facebook group. It's just hard to find in the Facebook group because it's a fire hose, and then these scroll off the end and there's no good search term. So if you like the live streams and the videos, just subscribe to the YouTube channel. And that is it. We are done. Thanks, guys. I will see you next week. Thanks for all the comments. They were all good. And we'll be back later.